Jake was just another name on the warehouse schedule, an invisible cog in a giant machine. He stacked boxes, clocked in, clocked out, day in, day out, until one rainy morning when a frail, elderly woman wandered into the loading dock, soaked and disoriented. She looked lost, but she was more than that. She was watching. While others brushed her off, Jake offered her a seat, a blanket, and a kind smile. No cameras, no orders, just decency. What he didn't know, what no one knew, was that this woman was the mother of the company's powerful CEO, and she was testing the people who kept her son's empire running. What started as a simple act of kindness would trigger a chain of events Jake could never imagine. Promotions, secrets, boardroom whispers, and at the center of it all, a warehouse worker who proved that true character isn't measured in resumes or job titles, but in the moments no one is watching. This is a story of humility, heart, and hidden eyes. It's about how one quiet man changed his future, simply by doing what was right. The sun hadn't even risen when Jake Martin pulled his hoodie over his head, zipped up his coat, and stepped into the chill of the early morning air. The sidewalks still glistened with dew, the city only beginning to stir. For most, it was the prelude to the day. For Jake, it was already well underway. Another day, another shift at Westvale Logistics. He arrived at the warehouse 15 minutes early, like he always did. Not because anyone asked him to, but because that's who he was. Reliable, quiet, invisible. The warehouse was a beast. 80,000 square feet of stacked crates, automated forklifts, and the hum of fluorescent lights. It smelled like cardboard and motor oil. Somewhere a pallet clanked into place. Somewhere else, a worker cursed under his breath about inventory tags. No one noticed Jake slip in and swipe his ID at the security door. No one ever did. Jake had been working at Westvale for nearly 3 years. He was one of those faces you'd pass 100 times and never remember. He didn't mind. He liked flying under the radar. He didn't crave promotions or attention. He just wanted to do his job well and keep his head down. He grabbed his high-vis vest and made his way toward Section D. The air was cool inside, just enough to keep the boxes from warping in the heat. Jake liked that. There was an order here. Labels, system, structure. You knew where things went. You followed a list. You got it done. Simple. He worked silently, methodically, stacking boxes onto pallets, scanning them, wheeling them over to the loading bay. He was good at it, better than most, even if no one said it aloud. When new hires were trained, it was often Jake who quietly showed them the ropes, even though he didn't have the title of trainer. Around him, the warehouse buzzed with idle chatter. Rob and Kenny were cracking jokes by the conveyor belts. Tanya was flirting with one of the forklift guys. Managers barked into walkie-talkies about delays. Jake kept working. By 9 a.m., the rhythm had settled in. Jake paused to sip his thermos coffee by the back dock, watching a line of trucks reverse in for their daily pickups. The warehouse doors were open to the outside, letting in a soft gray light and the smell of the rain-soaked pavement. That's when he saw her. At first, he thought she might have wandered in from the street. She was hunched slightly, her coat oversized, a worn leather handbag hanging from her arm. Her hair was silver, done in soft waves, though the rain had frizzed the ends. She looked around, clearly confused, turning slowly in place. She didn't belong here, not in a facility where hard hats and steel-toed boots were the norm. Jake glanced around. Nobody else had noticed her, or if they did, they weren't reacting. He put his coffee down and walked toward her. "Ma'am?" he asked gently, not wanting to startle her. Are you okay? She looked up at him with eyes that were bright but clouded, like someone who once had sharp command of a room but had long since given it up. I'm not sure, she said, voice trembling. I'm looking for someone, but I might have taken a wrong turn. You're not hurt, are you? Jake asked. She shook her head. No, just a little lost. Well, you're in a warehouse full of forklifts and boxes, Jake said, offering a small smile. Definitely not the best place to get lost. She gave a weak chuckle. No, I don't think it is. He offered his arm. Come with me. Let's get you somewhere warm. Maybe sit down, have some water. She hesitated, then slowly she took his arm. Her hand was light but firm, as though she was used to being in control. He led her carefully toward the break room, careful not to draw attention. Back at the dock, no one noticed. Or perhaps they noticed and just assumed Jake was doing what Jake always did, handling things quietly, without fuss. In the break room, he helped her into a chair and poured her some water. What's your name? He asked. She looked at him, and for a moment something flashed behind her eyes, a flicker of recognition, amusement, memory. You can call me Mary. Jake smiled. Well, Mary, I'm Jake. You're safe here. She nodded slowly, eyes scanning the room, as if filing something away. And just like that, Jake's ordinary day became the beginning of something extraordinary. The break room was modest, an old couch with frayed corners, a vending machine that ate quarters, and a coffee maker that hissed more steam than actual brew. Jake sat across from the elderly woman, watching her fingers tremble slightly as she cradled the paper cup of water he'd given her. The hum of fluorescent lights overhead gave the room a sterile tone, but Jake's voice was warm. Do you remember how you got here, Mary? She blinked slowly, as if trying to peel back layers of fog in her memory. I was walking, she murmured. I wanted to visit someone. My son. He works nearby, I think, or maybe he used to. I don't remember the address. Jake nodded patiently. Was anyone with you? She shook her head. No, I like to be independent. She straightened slightly, a flicker of dignity in her posture. Don't look at me like I'm helpless. I'm not. I don't think that, Jake replied, his tone respectful. You're here now, and I just want to make sure you're okay. He glanced at the wall clock. 9:17 a.m. His shift manager would be expecting him back soon, but something told him this moment was more important. I'm going to call the front office, he said gently. They'll have someone who can help. No, she said quickly, her voice sharper now. Please, not yet. Jake paused. Why not? I just need a little time to gather my thoughts. I don't like being fussed over. Her eyes softened. You don't know what it's like growing old and watching people treat you like a child. Jake smiled. Actually, I might know a little. My mom used to say something similar. She was feisty like you. Mary looked at him, intrigued. Used to? She passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. He kept his voice even, but the weight of those words still tugged at him. Mary reached out and placed a hand over him. Her skin was cool and soft. I'm sorry. Thanks, Jake said quietly. She would have liked you. They sat in silence for a few moments, the kind of silence that didn't feel awkward, just shared. Tell me about your mom, Mary asked softly, if you don't mind. Jake leaned back in the plastic chair, exhaling slowly. She was a school teacher, tough as nails, believed in hard work, manners, and never backing down from doing what's right, even if no one was watching. Mary smiled. A woman after my own heart. They talked a while longer. Mary asked about his job, his favorite part of the warehouse, his co-workers. Jake kept the conversation light, not wanting to overwhelm her. In truth, he was surprised by how lucid she was when the subject changed to him. Her questions were thoughtful, like someone used to leading conversations, not fumbling through them. Just as he stood up to fetch her some tea from the vending machine, a voice barked from the hallway. "Jake, what the hell, man? We're behind on Section D." It was Kenny, loud and impatient. Jake popped his head out. "Got a situation here, give me a sec." Kenny glanced past him and raised an eyebrow. "Who's the lady?" "Just someone who needs a little help." Kenny shrugged. "Whatever. Don't let Mitch catch you slacking." Jake ignored the jab and returned to Mary. She hadn't flinched. She just kept watching him, measuring him with those pale gray eyes. "You didn't get mad when he yelled," she noted. "I pick my battles," Jake said, chuckling. "Besides, you're more important right now." She looked at him long and hard. "You're different. Most people would have walked away." Jake shrugged. "Maybe, but you looked like you needed someone." Mary leaned back, something unreadable flickering in her expression. "Maybe I did." Jake stood up and stretched. "I'll be right back," he said, gesturing to the vending machine. "Let me get you something warm." He slipped a few coins in and waited for the groaning machine to cough out a paper cup of hot tea. Behind him, Mary hummed softly to herself, a tune that sounded vaguely classical. Mozart, maybe. Jake didn't know, but it was calming. When he returned with the tea, he noticed her hands had stopped shaking. She sipped it, nodded in approval. "I like you," she said. Jake smiled. "Thanks, you're not so bad yourself." She laughed, a real full-throated chuckle. "Now that's the first honest compliment I've had all week." Jake pulled a chair closer. "So you said your son worked around here?" "Yes, or I thought he did. Maybe I was wrong." She looked away. "These days everything blurs together." He waited, then carefully asked, "Do you have anything in your purse? An address, maybe, a card?" She looked through it. Lipstick, a cloth handkerchief, a set of keys, a phone with a dead battery, and a sleek black business card. Jake picked it up. "Langford Enterprises," he read aloud. "That's the parent company of this place." Mary smiled slyly. "Is it? How interesting." Jake furrowed his brow. "Wait, is your son—" She held a finger to her lips. "Not yet." Before he could press further, the security officer arrived. Jake had called earlier to ask for help locating a family member. "I'll take it from here," the guard said, not unkindly. "We'll get her sorted." Jake hesitated. "She asked to stay a little while longer." The guard shrugged. "Not my call, but she shouldn't be here on the floor." Mary stood slowly, clutching her bag. "Jake, thank you. You've been very kind." "Let me walk you to the front," he offered. The guard grunted, but didn't object. As they walked, Mary leaned in. "You remind me of someone, a man I once trusted very much." Jake raised a brow. "That a good thing?" "Oh yes," she said with a twinkle in her eye. "A very good thing." The front lobby of Westvale Logistics was starkly different from the warehouse. Gleaming tile floors, crisp furniture, and digital signs scrolled through company announcements. Jake had never had reason to visit this part of the building before. It was polished, corporate, foreign. Mary looked around, unimpressed. "Too shiny," she muttered. Jake stifled a laugh. "You don't like glass walls and potted plants?" "I like grit," she said. "Honesty. You find that more often in warehouses than boardrooms." Jake guided her to a plush seat near the receptionist, who stared at them, puzzled. Before she could say anything, Mary waved her off. "I'm just here with a friend." Jake sat beside her. They'll figure out who to call, he said. You okay? She nodded. Better now. You made me feel seen. That's not easy, you know. At my age, people look right through you. Jake frowned. That's a damn shame. They're missing out. She studied him. You're wasted on this floor. He shrugged. I do all right. No, you're a listener. That's rare. My son needs people like you. Her voice had weight. Yeah, what does your son do? He asked lightly. Mary just smiled. Oh, he runs a little company. Before Jake could respond, the receptionist stood suddenly. Mr. Langford will be right out. Jake froze. Langford? He repeated. Mary gave him a wink. Did I forget to mention? My son owns this place. The receptionist's words echoed in Jake's ears like a dropped wrench in a silent room. Mr. Langford will be right out. He turned slowly toward Mary, eyes wide. Wait, your son is Daniel Langford? She gave him that same sly smile, the kind that hinted she had known this moment was coming all along. Yes, dear, I suppose the charade has run its course. Jake sat back, stunned. For a moment he forgot where he was. The woman he'd just spent the last hour with, making tea, sharing stories, wasn't just anyone. She was the Mary Langford, the widow of industrial tycoon Harold Langford, the mother of Daniel Langford, the man whose name adorned the company's global headquarters, the man who signed Jake's paycheck. I didn't mean to deceive you, she added gently, but sometimes it's the only way to see the truth. Jake was about to speak when the lobby doors slid open. Daniel Langford entered the room like he owned the ground he walked on, which technically he did. Late 40s, tailored suit, salt and pepper hair, and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He locked eyes with his mother instantly. Mom, he said, his voice tight with worry, you can't keep doing this. I was perfectly safe, Mary replied, waving her hand. Jake took wonderful care of me. Daniel turned to Jake, sizing him up. You work in warehouse operations, Section D, Jake replied, standing instinctively straighter. Daniel extended a hand. Daniel Langford, I'm told you were very kind. Jake shook his hand. I just helped someone who needed it. Mary stood beside them, arms crossed. That's the kind of person you need more of in your ivory tower, Daniel. Daniel sighed. Can we not do this in public? I'll go quietly, but only after you listen. Jake stepped back, unsure if he should leave, but Mary reached out and placed a hand on his arm. Stay. Security personnel had arrived by now, lingering respectfully at the entrance. They didn't intervene. Clearly, this wasn't the first time Mary Langford had gone off script. Daniel knelt in front of his mother. You scared me. She softened, brushing his cheek. You were always so serious, even as a boy. All I wanted was to see how people here treat one another, how the company really functions. And I found Jake. Daniel looked up. What did you find out? That your company still has good people. People who care when no one is watching. People who listen. Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. It wasn't anything big. It was everything, Mary interrupted. Kindness is never small. Daniel stood slowly, nodding. Well, Jake, I appreciate what you did. I truly do. Jake started to say something, an apology maybe, but Daniel cut him off. Walk us to the elevator. Jake nodded and escorted them to the private lift near the executive suites. He held the door, standing aside. Mary turned before stepping in. This was a test, she whispered to me, and you passed. Jake watched the doors close, heart pounding. In less than an hour, his entire world had tilted, and the echoes were just beginning. The warehouse buzzed with activity again, but for Jake, everything felt quieter, muted. He moved on autopilot, stacking boxes and scanning barcodes, but his mind replayed the last hour like a looping reel. You passed. What did that even mean? It wasn't until lunchtime that word got out. Kenny strolled into the break room, smirking. "Hey, Jake, did you escort royalty this morning?" Jake blinked. "What?" "Old lady with the fur collar. Word is that was the CEO's mom, and you were her bodyguard or something." Jake rolled his eyes. "I wasn't anyone's bodyguard. She was lost." "Well, you're on the radar now," Tanya chimed in, munching on pretzels. "Enjoy your 15 minutes. Jake sighed and stepped outside to eat in peace. He sat on a crate near the loading dock, the wind carrying the scent of pine wood and diesel. He barely touched his sandwich. The elevator moment haunted him. Mary had looked at him as the doors closed, serene, wise, and oddly pleased. What had she meant by test? Was this something she did often? Was it orchestrated, or was it a mother trying to protect her son's legacy from within? The elevator ride earlier had been brief but telling. Mary had insisted Jake come with them to the top floor. At first he resisted, but she wouldn't hear it. The lift's walls were mirrored, reflecting their three distinct forms: Jake in his warehouse vest, Daniel in his designer suit, and Mary in her rain-spotted coat. "I used to ride this elevator with Harold," Mary said softly. "He'd squeeze my hand when the numbers lit up, told me each floor was a step toward something greater." Jake nodded, uncertain what to say. Daniel remained quiet, watching them both. Mary turned to Jake. "Tell me something. Why did you help me?" Jake shrugged. "You looked like you needed someone, that's all. No suspicion, no curiosity, no agenda." "Not everything's a transaction," Jake replied. "Sometimes people just help." Daniel turned to face him, finally speaking. "We've had 5 warehouse workers walk past my mother during these tests. Some ignored her, one called security and left. Only one sat with her." Jake stiffened. "Wait, you've done this before?" Mary laughed softly. "Daniel's idea of employee vetting doesn't always agree with mine." Jake was speechless. Daniel sighed. "You're the only one who stayed and didn't ask for anything." Mary added, "That speaks volumes." The elevator chimed. Executive floor. Daniel put a hand on Jake's shoulder. "We'll be in touch." And just like that, Jake was dismissed, but not forgotten. By the next morning, Jake's story had gone from whispered rumor to warehouse legend. Everyone had a version. He saved the CEO's mom from a mugger. She was undercover to inspect working conditions. Dude's gonna be on the board by Monday. Jake kept his head down, but the knowing smiles followed him like shadows. He ignored them. Not because he didn't care, he just didn't believe anything would come of it. That changed when he got a call during his break. "Jake Martin? Speaking. This is Olivia Park from Executive Operations. Mr. Langford would like to see you at 3 p.m. today in his office." Jake nearly dropped his phone. Yes. Sure, of course." He cleaned up early, swapped his vest for a slightly wrinkled button-up from his locker, and made his way to the executive floor. The receptionist greeted him like an old friend and led him to Daniel Langford's corner office. The CEO stood by the window, back turned, looking out over the shipping yard below. "Quite a view, huh?" Daniel said without turning. Jake nodded. "It's huge." Daniel finally faced him. "You don't think people like you matter in this kind of place? You're wrong." Jake remained silent. My mother thinks you should be in leadership. Jake blinked. I'm just a warehouse guy. No, Daniel said, you're a person of character, and we promote that here. He handed Jake a sealed envelope. Open it when you get home. It's a new opportunity, better pay, room to grow. I trust you'll consider it. Jake took it with both hands, humbled. Thank you, sir. As he left the office, he passed Mary in the hallway. She gave him a wink. Full circle, she whispered. Jake didn't know what the future held, but for the first time he felt like he had more than a job. He had a path. Jake walked back into the warehouse like a man emerging from a different world. The elevator ride down from the executive floor had felt like a descent from Olympus. One moment he was staring at panoramic views of the city from behind Daniel Langford's desk, and the next he was back beneath buzzing fluorescent lights, weaving through pallets of shrink-wrapped goods. His fingers clenched the envelope in his coat pocket like a lifeline. He hadn't opened it yet. He couldn't. Not here. Not in a place where dirt caked the floor and forklifts beeped like impatient alarms. Kenny spotted him first. Well, look who's back from the ivory tower. Did they give you a crown or just a gold clipboard? Jake grinned, but there was a nervous edge to it. Nothing like that, just a meeting. Tanya slid up beside him, arms folded. You sure? Because Mitch just got a call from corporate. Said someone from executive ops is reviewing employee performance reports. That's not normal, Jake. Jake's stomach twisted. He hadn't considered that. Could his act of kindness be setting off a chain reaction? Were people getting evaluated because of him? He returned to his station, heart pounding. He tried to focus, but every beep of the scanner echoed louder than before. Every glance from coworkers felt more weighted. At lunch, Jake found a quiet corner in the parking lot. He finally pulled the envelope from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a letter on embossed stationery. Dear Jake Martin, it is my pleasure to formally invite you to join the Operational Leadership Training Program. This initiative is designed for individuals demonstrating not just skill, but character, resilience, and potential. You have been nominated by the Office of the CEO. We encourage you to accept this opportunity to grow within Westvale's expanding future. Olivia Park, Executive Operations. Below the letter was a contract, higher pay, management training, health benefits that actually covered dental. Jake blinked. It felt surreal. He sat back, letting the late afternoon sun hit his face. This wasn't just a thank you note, it was a doorway. And behind it stood a woman who had wandered into the warehouse with rain in her hair and secrets in her smile. Jake was called into the executive suite again the next morning. This time, he wasn't alone. 2 other employees were in the waiting room, Tanya and a team leader named Miguel. Both looked equally confused. Any idea what this is about? Tanya whispered. Jake shook his head. He honestly didn't know, but when Olivia Park entered and called his name, he stood like it was his first day on the job again. She led him to a large, glass-walled conference room. Inside was Daniel Langford, and beside him, to Jake's amazement, was Mary Langford, dressed in a pristine blazer and sipping coffee like she owned the building, which, in a way, she did. Jake, Daniel began, motioning to the seat across from him. Thank you for coming again. Mary smiled. I insisted on being here. Jake sat, trying to find his words. I got the letter. Thank you. I didn't expect any of this. Daniel nodded. That's what makes you ideal. Mary leaned forward. You didn't help me because you knew who I was. You helped because it was right. I've seen too many people in this world only offer kindness when it benefits them. Jake felt her words settle in his chest. Daniel continued, I've built this company with policies, metrics, and logistics. But character, that's harder to measure, harder to teach. Mary added, that's why I do what I do. Disguised or not, I walk among the people. I look for those who see a soul, not a situation. Jake blinked. You've done this before? Mary chuckled. Oh yes, once I dressed as a janitor. No one held the door. Once I posed as a vendor. They sent me to wait by the dumpsters. Daniel raised a brow. That one nearly gave Legal a heart attack. But you, Mary said, pointing a finger at Jake, you gave me dignity, and for that, I owe you more than thanks. Jake cleared his throat. Honestly, I just thought of my mom. Mary's gaze softened. And she must have raised a good man. Daniel stood. Welcome to the future, Jake. We want you on a leadership path, one that reflects both the company's goals and my mother's legacy. Jake nodded slowly, still unsure if this was real. Mary grinned. Consider this a promotion, from good man to great one. When Jake returned to the warehouse, the atmosphere had changed. People didn't just glance anymore, they stared. Conversations hushed when he walked by. Kenny gave him a mock salute. Tanya simply shook her head and muttered, unreal. By the afternoon, the story had mutated. He's the CEO's nephew. He caught a thief and saved payroll records. He helped deliver the baby of the chairman's daughter during a blackout. Jake rolled his eyes but said nothing. He was too busy filling out HR paperwork and prepping for his first leadership training session. His inbox now had corporate emails. His badge unlocked a new floor, and his name had been added to a team lead candidate tracker, but it wasn't all easy. Some coworkers looked at him like a traitor. One supervisor, clearly threatened, muttered, just don't forget where you came from. Jake nodded respectfully. I won't. Still, the adjustment was awkward. He no longer knew which break room to eat in. He wasn't a warehouse worker, not yet a manager. He existed in the in-between. One afternoon, as he left the logistics building, he found a note taped to his locker. Real, recognize real, don't change. M. No signature, but it meant everything. That night, Jake opened his laptop and clicked on the leadership training portal. If this was his shot, he was going to earn it. And he would never forget the woman who taught him that kindness, not ambition, was the greatest door opener of all. Here are the final 3 chapters of The Warehouse Surprise, each with a minimum of 700 words. 2 weeks had passed since Jake received his promotion letter, and life had begun to shift in quiet, undeniable ways. His mornings now started with corporate emails and training modules before he even clocked in. Warehouse managers addressed him by name. He was invited to stand-in meetings, once a week, then twice. He didn't just move boxes anymore. He moved information, strategy, people. Still, a part of him hesitated every time he stepped into the executive elevator. It was as if the doors closed on his old life each time they opened onto the polished floors above. Then, one Wednesday afternoon, the call came. Jake was halfway through helping Tanya troubleshoot an inventory scanner issue when his phone buzzed with a direct call from Daniel Langford's office. "This is Jake," he answered, stepping into a quieter aisle. "Jake, it's Olivia Park. Mr. Langford would like to meet with you this afternoon. Are you available at 3:30? Jake's throat tightened. "Yes, of course." She paused. "Bring a notepad. This will be a bit more involved." When he arrived at the conference room, Daniel was already there reviewing a tablet. Mary Langford stood by the window, arms crossed, dressed in her signature earth tones, elegant, understated, unmistakably commanding. "Jake," Daniel said, gesturing to the chair across from him, "have a seat." Jake sat, notepad on his lap, pen in hand. "I wasn't expecting another meeting so soon." Daniel nodded. "We weren't either, but my mother made a compelling case." Jake glanced at Mary, who offered him a cryptic smile. "She thinks you're ready for more than just leadership training," Daniel continued. "She believes you can be a bridge between the warehouse floor and corporate strategy." Jake blinked. "You mean like a liaison?" "Exactly," Mary chimed in. "Someone who speaks both languages, who knows how to lift a pallet but also how to lift people." Daniel handed Jake a file folder. Inside was a project brief. "Employee experience revamp." "We want you to lead the pilot," Daniel said. "You'll have a small team, a 3-month runway, and full access to both warehouse and HR data." Jake stared at the pages. "This is a lot of trust." Daniel nodded. "Earned trust." Mary stepped forward. "And I'll be watching." Jake chuckled nervously. "I figured." Daniel leaned back. "So, you in?" Jake exhaled, steadying himself. "Yeah, I'm in." Jake's official promotion was announced on a rainy Monday morning. An email went out to all staff, titled "New Leadership Pilot Ground Up Excellence." It featured a short write-up about Jake, his journey from floor worker to pilot leader, and the upcoming Employee Experience Initiative. He read it 3 times before it sank in. When he arrived that day, something unexpected happened. People clapped. In the break room, on the floor. Even Mitch, the gruff warehouse supervisor, gave him a nod of respect. "About time someone like you got recognized," Mitch grunted. Tanya hugged him outright. "Jake, this is insane. We've needed someone like you up there." Kenny, always the clown, mock bowed. "All hail King Jake, first of his name, ruler of rack and row." Jake laughed, but this time it felt different. He wasn't embarrassed. He was grateful. He gathered his new team, a mix of floor staff and junior managers, and set the tone with his first sentence. "No matter how far up we go, we don't forget where we started." The team nodded. He spent the first week just listening, shadowing shifts, asking questions, recording what worked, what didn't, and how the leadership often missed simple human moments that shaped morale. He found that people weren't asking for flashy perks or promotions. They just wanted to be heard, respected, valued, like Mary Langford had wanted when she wandered into the warehouse. He shared that story, carefully redacted, to inspire his team. "One act of kindness changed my path. Let's make sure others don't have to wait for a miracle moment to feel seen." His team clapped. The project had begun. 3 months later, Jake stood at the front of the executive conference room, his team seated behind him. His pilot program results were displayed on the screen. 23% increase in retention, 40% drop in reported workplace conflicts, and a new mentorship pipeline that was already gaining attention in HR circles. Daniel Langford tapped the table. "Impressive." Olivia added, "We've had leadership consultants who didn't produce results this good." Jake nodded. "All we did was listen, respect, act." Mary Langford stood slowly. "Jake," she said, her voice firm and warm, "you've not only shown us what this company can be, you've reminded us why we built it in the first place." Daniel turned to him. "We'd like to offer you a permanent position as Director of Workforce Culture. You'll oversee this initiative company-wide." Jake blinked. "Me? Director?" Mary laughed. "Surprised?" I'm honored. Yes. Daniel extended a hand. Welcome to the table. As they shook hands, Jake thought back to the rainy morning months ago, to the fragile hand that had grasped his own, asking for help. Now he stood at the summit of an opportunity no resume could have predicted. Later that day, he returned to the warehouse floor. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Mary was there, waiting by the dock, her coat pulled tight against the wind. Jake approached, smiling. "Checking on me?" "Always," she said. They stood in silence for a moment. "You've done well," she said. "I had a good teacher." She chuckled. "Don't go soft on me now, Director." They watched as boxes were loaded onto trucks, as workers shouted and laughed in the background, the heartbeat of the company. Full circle. Jake had found his place, not just as a leader, but as someone who remembered what it meant to simply be kind. And sometimes that made all the difference.